Hi, Heather, and welcome to the World Vegan Travel Podcast.
Hello, Friday. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, you are absolutely welcome. And I'm so excited talking about this topic, this beautiful paradise in the Indian Ocean. And I'm just so excited to be talking with you about Mauritius today, a place that you call home and where you're doing some work in the vegan travel space. Heather, would you mind getting our listeners up to speed as to what it is that you are doing in Mauritius and what brought you there?
Oh, it's a good question. I'm actually born in Zimbabwe. I'm eighth generation African with Irish descent. But 10 years ago, we decided to move to Mauritius because of political instability. And why we chose Mauritius is that it's a very safe place. It's a beautiful island. If you were to see how gorgeous the beaches are, they're absolutely mind-blowing. And the people are wonderful. Also has one of the highest education rates in Africa and the lowest unemployment and one of the highest GDP per capita. So a very wealthy country. And we just thought this would be a great place to raise our two boys.
Wow, that seems like a huge move. As somebody who has lived in many different countries, I know it can be quite challenging, quite hard, but it sounds like you're just absolutely thriving there. I mean, you've been there for 10 years.
Yes, we absolutely love it. We did come here as vegetarians, and I went vegetarian at 28, but I really struggled on the island because we wanted to become vegan. We wanted to up our game a little bit, but it was really hard. And if you love food as much as me, it frustrated me so much. And I thought, well, let me design a course. Maybe I can help the hotel industry to educate them about how amazing plant-based foods can be. So I started a nonprofit, which is called Ecoshi. And that was 2 years ago now. And now we train hotels and hotel staff to welcome all your vegan travelers with the red carpet and a delicious vegan buffet.
It completely aligns with our experience in terms of we decided to create a travel company and our impetus was the same. We were lucky enough because Seb was travel hacking. He was able to collect credit card points and we stayed in some beautiful hotels and resorts. And yeah, the options offered were lackluster at best. So that was why we decided to open World Vegan Travel as well. So yeah, I see a lot of crossover. I can see why somebody would want to come to Mauritius to live, especially if they are coming from a place where it is not so safe. I've heard that Mauritius is just this beautiful paradise on earth kind of place. What makes it such a unique destination compared with maybe some other similar places in the Indian Ocean, like the Seychelles and places like that, the Maldives?
The Seychelles are also very beautiful places. I think if you're looking for a bucket and spade holiday with just a beach experience, you could go to 100 different places. But if you really want to get connected to a culture that is so deep and rich and diverse, if you come to Mauritius, you'll be able to go into the villages and have roadside food, street food that is so good and has an Indian flavor to it. You'll find amazing Chinese food with tofu and mushrooms, and then also the African influence as well. They all seem to come together in such a beautiful synergy. They're so welcoming. There's so many different cultures that have brought so many different flavors together, and it just works really well. And why your guests would really enjoy coming here, we've got quite a few unique tourist attractions that we'll come to a bit later in the questions that I will highlight and hopefully surprise you. I'll show you some pictures and videos of some amazing places here.
Oh, I love it. So a question that I have is, can you just maybe get us oriented on where Mauritius is and how large it is? Is it just one island or are there multiple islands? How you get there? Because it really isn't a very well visited destination for North Americans, for example.
It's a good point. So if you looked at the map and you had the continent of Africa, on the east coast of Africa, there's Madagascar. I used to think Madagascar was Mauritius because as a child, I always knew Mauritius was off the east coast of Africa, but I realized then it's a tiny little island off the east coast of Madagascar, and you can hardly see it on the map. It's like a little drop. In fact, you can drive from one side to the other in 1 hour. It's really small, but there are over 1 million people living here. And we have nearly 1.5 million tourists a year. So more people visit Mauritius on holiday every year than actually live here. And it's one of the main revenue streams for Mauritius is its beautiful white sandy beaches, the amazing 5- and 4-star resorts. But even for those who are not looking for a fancy, lush 5-star option, there are so many Airbnbs and little backpacking places and surf spots. There's something for everybody. And I highly recommend you spin your little globe and take a look at Mauritius.
I love it. And how do people normally get to Mauritius? Where do flights come from?
Okay, there's a lot of flights from Dubai, from Paris, from Southern Africa, from Johannesburg, Singapore, even Perth, Kuala Lumpur. You can fly overnight to London as well.
Wow. I absolutely did not know that. I didn't realize. I would have thought that you had to fly only from Johannesburg. But yeah, being able to fly from Singapore and London, that's super cool.
Absolutely. And Air Mauritius is a wonderful airline. I do hope they improve their vegan food on there. I'm going to send them this video.
Yes, airlines, gosh, they have got a lot to learn for sure about vegan food on the planes. It can be quite pitiful, that's for sure.
The only good thing is you get fed first before everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to know what the vegan scene is like in Mauritius right now. I'd love to know how sort of accidentally vegan it is in terms of the foods and the produce and the ingredients that are available there, and maybe local dishes that are vegan friendly, and also the kinds of work that you've been doing more recently, and I'm sure others similar to you.
Yes, thank you. So the vegan scene is improving. I would say there are a couple of restaurants. There's a restaurant called Shlomo, which is a purely vegan restaurant. And then there's a restaurant quite close to where I live called Vanilla Village. And they have our ikoshi lasagna on there. We taught them how to make this delicious layered lasagna with cashew cheese, cream cashew cheese, with a nice tomato filling and melted cheese on top. So they do the ikoshi lasagna. And the vegan scene at the hotels, that's definitely improving. A handful of hotels that definitely stand out more than others. So the first hotel group that I worked with was the Lux group of hotels. And as the name suggests, Lux is luxury. And they have a lot of 5-star and 4-star hotels. One of the high-up executives there is vegan. He was a friend of mine. So he's the one that I first introduced the course to. And I said, Julian, do you think that this course would be accepted into the hotels? And he said, look, let's try it. We'll give it a go. And we did it and they loved it. So we rolled it out in 5 of their hotels. And then once we'd done the Lux group, then the Marriott came on board. And the Marriott's quite a popular international brand. And they were really impressed with what they learned. In fact, the one lady came to me and she just said, you know, all these years I thought I was going crazy. My family thought I was mad wanting them to eat vegetarian and less meat, dairy and eggs, but you've really proved to me that I'm not going mad and this is the higher choice and it is healthier and it is better for the environment and it is kinder to animals. So there was a real penny dropping there. Also, the roadside, the street food is so good. So if you are wanting, even as a vegan, walking the streets, you'll be able to get all those nice little Indian curries or Chinese stir fries and dal puris and gâteau piment. And I'm learning quite a little bit of French as well with all these different names.
What is gâteau piment?
So gâteau piment is a little ball. It's like a little chili bite and it's made from chickpea flour. And they're delicious. And they often serve them with the ocean chili, coconut chili. The chilies here are delicious. They either do them with fresh coconut or with apples. They actually mix apples with chili, and it's on a lot of the side dishes. Those are really yummy.
Oh, wow, that does sound really interesting. So by the sounds of it, food is totally well covered in Mauritius. Vegans are going to eat really well, but, not everybody just travels for food. So something I'm curious about, apart from maybe enjoying the beautiful beaches and resorts, what are some unique activities and experience that you recommend for vegan travelers or anyone looking to enjoy Mauritius?
I think one of the greatest attractions for me, it's a mountain called Le Morne, Brabant, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's about an hour's climb up halfway, and the view is just to die for. But if you take a helicopter trip over Le Morne, there's an optical illusion where it looks like an underground waterfall because of the way the currents are coming in and the sands are moving. And I'll share a video with you. I'll show your listeners how beautiful this looks from the sky. So that's worth looking at. And then there's a lot of national parks here. There's a national park called the Gorge, and I love going swimming in there. And you go for long walks in nature, and then I swim in the rivers. And I always make sure to drink a bit of the river water because I think it's got a lot of B12 in it. As a vegan, how B12 is always a question, and are you getting it from natural water sources? And this is something that I do explain on our courses in training, that B12 is really important to supplement because even the cows and livestock are being supplemented with B12 and actually not as good a quality B12 as we supplement we can afford ourselves. And then beyond food is also dog lovers. I'm sure a lot of your guests love dogs. I'm sure animal lovers.
Yes.
And there's a lot of street dogs in Mauritius, and a lot of expats and local communities are trying to help get them off the streets and to sterilize them. And most people have adopted a little dog or a stray, and we call them Mauritian specials. Last year I adopted my first dog ever, and I'm almost 50 and I've never had a dog, so I'm really, really in love with this little dog called Chai. And I was surprised at the research. A friend of mine said that I should feed him vegan food. And at first I thought, well, dogs are omnivores and they shouldn't be vegan. But I read and saw that dogs live a very long and healthy life, and sometimes even longer. I think one dog reached 25 on a vegan diet. I don't know if you knew that. Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So you're able to feed your dog a vegan diet.
Yes.
That's amazing. So I'm curious, just an aside, it's not really connected with travel, but do you make the food yourself, or are you able to get like V-Dog or another vegan dog food? Because I imagine in Mauritius, maybe ingredients and products aren't as widely available as they might be, I don't know, in Cape Town or Johannesburg or something like that.
I wish. I mean, even human vegan food is, that's work in progress. So we're definitely making the dog food and using lots of lentils and sweet potato, nutritional yeast. Doggies love nutritional yeast. So we're making up a little brew for him every day.
I love it.
And then some other things to do is also to swim with the dolphins. They're out quite close to us in our bay, and they're not abused because it's very controlled, and the tourists are only allowed to swim or be with them for about 2 hours of the day. And so they get a lot of, obviously, time out on their own out there. And the dolphins seem to love it because they really swim and interact with the guests. So if anyone's a dolphin lover out there, definitely come and see us on our doorstep. And you can also plant a tree at Bellorm Nature Forest. There's a tree planting outing, which for the sustainable minded. You can volunteer with reef conservation in Mauritius, and maybe some of your guests might want to come in. You can get a 1-year tourist visa in Mauritius, and you can come in and enjoy for a whole year if you like. It is a long way. You might as well make the most of it, right?
That's quite impressive. As somebody who has to think a lot about visas for their business, that is really quite incredible. What is the cost of living in Mauritius? I imagine that being an island, it could be more expensive than South Africa, for example, which compared with Canada is quite reasonably priced.
It is expensive to live. A lot of food is imported. But if you are eating street food and subsidized foods, you can live pretty cheaply, and the government really look after Mauritius, the schools are free, medical is free, and so your expenses really are just your luxuries and your food. Yeah, food is a little bit pricey, but especially if you're going for like Ben and Jerry's ice cream and vegan burgers and things like that. But I always say, just make it at home. It doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah, make them treats, I guess. Something I was curious about what you said was that the government subsidizes food. So I guess that's just some basic ingredients, some staples, so that everybody can afford those. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, like flour and rice. But sugar is taxed because Mauritius is actually a sugar cane island. That was the original industry many years ago. A lot of sugar cane farmers were here, but it is a dying industry. And I'm hoping to encourage people to rewild the sugarcane fields because sadly, Mauritius, they have cut down a lot of their native forests, which is a shame. So I'm always like, eat plants, plant trees.
I often tell myself, like, could we really maybe address climate change or help to address climate change if we could just turn that ranching land and that pastoral land to forests? I often wonder about that. I'm not an environmental scientist or anything like that, but surely that would help.
It would, absolutely. Yeah.
So you mentioned that there are a lot of hotels and resorts on the island. I'm just wondering, like, what kind of vibe they are. Are they just lots of high-rise buildings, like mega resorts, or are they generally quite small? And often how the hotels really dictates the vibe of a place. For example, in southern Spain, you have these really enormous resorts, and as a result, they're quite reasonably priced. The vibe is very much like party, a little bit crazy, very built up. How does Mauritius compare to that?
They're very tastefully done, the resort. They're on also some of the best beaches. And what's nice is there are a lot of public beaches as well. So local Mauritians have a place to go and enjoy the beaches as well. It's not like the tourism industry have overridden people's own back garden. There's only one really big new hotel called the Riu Hotel, but for the rest of them, they are just spread out along beautiful beaches. They're beautifully decorated, gorgeous looking, and really quality, high-class resorts. There's only two places where there's high-rise buildings. One is in Port Louis, which is the capital, and they've got a beautiful waterfront there with ships and vessels and containers and gantries. It's really, really quite a nice vibe, and a lot of markets, the markets where they sell food and clothes. There's what they call Cyber City, which is in the center of the island. And my husband and I, we're tech background. And when we saw that there was Cyber City here, we thought, wow, beautiful island life, beautiful weather, and high tech, good internet, but it's away from the beaches. So that's in the center. The beaches are really sort of untouched still, and gorgeous. Some of the best resorts I've seen in the world, and I've traveled to so many places. It's not too commercialized, it's quaint, and it's kind of rustic, but with the fine trimmings.
Oh, sounds absolutely lovely. I love it. You have also created an app, which maybe because of your tech background. Can you tell us about this app and how people should use it?
Oh, thanks, Bridie. I'm sure you've had this question so many times, people asking, why are you vegan? Why don't you eat meat? And it's such a loaded question. And one day I sat down and I thought, let me just list all the reasons why it's a good idea to eat less meat, dairy, and eggs. And I came up with over 50 different items across health, environment, and animal welfare. And I thought it's such a strong debate to have with someone. And often when I'm in a debate around food, it becomes quite tense because you're triggering something inside that's who's right, who's wrong. And I thought, what if you took that out of the equation and you just had like some little knowledge points, and all you have to say on each point is, I knew this or I didn't know. And so the app has like little flashcards. So when I'm doing a training session, we'd have maybe 50 people in the room. They download the app. We go through one question at a time. We'll say something like, did you know that every second 1.5 acres of rainforest is lost to animal agriculture? And all they have to do is, I knew this, I didn't know. and they can turn the card over. It gives all the research to back up what we're claiming. And it also has a little button where they can challenge it, because a lot of people like to say, oh, well, that's not true, or where do you get your protein? And I've always said, this is not a dictatorship, it's a democracy. If you have some research or data to contradict what I've learned and researched, then put it out there. So we've got 55 cards. We go through it like this. And then on each card, you can also click a little heart to say whether you care about something. So that's at the end of the app. It's quite measurable. And I can feed back to the HR manager to say, on average, everybody learned 20 new things, and they cared about 15 of them. We look at a group statistic to say, as a group, this is what we've learned, this is what we care about, and we never single out anyone as like maybe not caring about something. It's actually made it quite fun and interesting, rather than like bring out the boxing gloves. So that's the app.
I love that. You really can avoid a lot of that hostility that can often bubble up, and having that measurable data to be able to give to everyone, and also for yourself as well. Yes. I'm imagining you're collecting this data, and you kind of, over time, you get to tweak things, improve your tradings and things like that. That's such a cool idea. What are some items that you're finding on the app that people are caring about when you're running this test, let's call it?
Have you watched the Game Changers?
Yes.
Have you seen it? I know that card often makes some people squirm a little bit, but I often wonder if it's in the back of people's minds. That's very interesting, because 40% of men over 40 suffer with erectile dysfunction. And that's obviously good blood flow, and the smallest capillaries are the ones that will be blocked first if you have any signs of high cholesterol. So it's quite interesting, the science behind that. So that's one card. Another one that really blows people away is when I ask them, what percentage do you think we're down to of our natural wildlife? And I tell them we're down to 4%, because humans and farm animals are now 96% of every living mammal on the planet. That shocks a lot of people. And it also breaks that perception that vegans only care about cows, pigs, chickens, and sheep. I always say, yes, of course, it's cruel what's happening to them. Let's stop abusing and breeding them. But we still would have to keep consuming them until the balance of the wildlife comes back in, or let them die, their natural lifespan. But that does blow people away. And then also that vegan blood is 8 times better at fighting cancer. This is something that always surprises me. And I think everyone knows someone who suffered or died from cancer. The first 10 cards in the app talk about our digestive system and why we're herbivores and not omnivores. And this is a debate that always comes up. People say, oh, but we're omnivores. And I remind them that, yes, we behave like omnivores, but that doesn't mean biologically that we are omnivores. And I tell them some surprising things, like herbivores sweat to cool down, but omnivores pant to cool down. So for instance, your dog will pant to cool down, but we sweat. And herbivores mostly sip their water, but an omnivore will lap to drink. And things like our pH balance in our stomach is less acidic. Omnivores and carnivores have more acidity in their stomachs to digest meat. The length of our intestines, the fact that our jaws move left and right as well, because an omnivore is on a hinge joint, so their jaw only opens up and down. And they've got a very wide opening. So my dog, for instance, I can see that his mouth is designed to almost go into a carcass and nuzzle around in there, but our mouths are not designed like that. So when you see all these things, we are more like gorillas. That's it. I'm sure, I'd love to invite all your listeners to download the app. It's free on the app stores, and do share with us. We'd love to know if we managed to teach any of the diehard vegans something new.
I love that. I'm curious, because I'm sure a lot of vegans would know some of what you talk about on the app. I'm wondering at the beginning, because I wouldn't want to mess up your data.
Yeah.
Is there a place for people to tick whether they are vegan or not yet vegan?
That I No, not on the app yet, but that's interesting. I would like to gather that. When somebody registers, that's a very good little add-on to put there. Thank you.
Yeah. So it sounds like Mauritius is pretty clued in as to, how to look after its citizens and the people who have chosen to make it their home. And it seems like they are being pretty smart in how they develop tourism. Where do you see Mauritius heading in the next 5 years or even beyond that?
Well, if my dream comes true, I would love Mauritius to be one of the most incredible vegan destinations in the world, like the known go-to place. If you want a good vegan holiday, go to Mauritius. And I'd also like to see Mauritians starting to produce their own food, and even to a really good standard that we start exporting our food. Say, for instance, vegan cheeses. There's such a skill to getting it right. The yogurts, the cold cuts, the alternatives that feel so close to home for a lot of people that they tend to miss a lot. And then also just to find creative ways to bring in the skills that they have from China, from India, from Eastern Africa. Like, let's use whole foods and see what we can do without processing and preserving foods too much.
Being a tropical destination, I would say that you probably have a lot of access to coconuts. What is the produce that grows in abundance in Mauritius?
Definitely coconuts. Yes, the beaches are lined with coconut trees, so fresh coconut water, desiccated coconuts. We could become a bounty bar hub. And then pineapples, lots of pineapples if you like pina coladas. That's one thing I do say to the hotels. If your pina coladas are vegan, you can't put cow's milk in them. You have to use coconut milk.
Yes.
And then sweet potatoes,
well,
jackfruit. Yes, jackfruit. It's a little bit like a massive potato. You can make jackfruit fries with it. It resembles a bit like pulled pork, so you can have it in a curry, in wraps. The jackfruit's really delicious. They grow massive.
Yes. Yeah, I think in the rest, like when I was living in Thailand, ripe jackfruit was very popular fruit. But I think in like the past 10, 12 years or so, jackfruit as a meat substitute has really gained popularity. We can go to the supermarket and buy cans of young jackfruit. That's often the one that's used to make pulled pork and things like that. The fact that Mauritius has these ingredients which are used to make vegan products, like coconut can be made into coconut yogurt, can be used to make things creamy. You've got this incredible vegan substitute for pork and other animal products. It's nice to see that there's potential for growth to make local vegan products as well.
We could make a lot of dried fruit. I'd also love to see a lot more wellness retreats happening in Mauritius. People tend to go to Bali and Thailand and they don't realize that Mauritius is a beautiful wellness destination. And it's a lot of revenue to be made for the hotels because wellness pays more than a traditional beach holiday. They say most people, they spend so much of their retirement getting back their health, right? So come and do that here in our beautiful Mauritius.
I love it. Just before we say goodbye, Heather, can you tell us like one hotel or hotel group that you think deserves a shout out because of just how much effort they're putting into trying to improve plant-based offerings?
I'd have to say that the Attitude Group, they have 9 hotels, some mostly 4 stars, 1 5-star, and they want to lead the way with vegan stays in Mauritius. They've got one hotel, the Sunrise Attitude, that particularly has really good vegan food, and all their staff now wear a little badge that says, "I speak vegan," which I love. So cute. And they get the best reviews online also. And we are working with them to make sure that they genuinely do speak vegan to a really high level. So when a guest comes and says, "I'm vegan," the waiter will say, "Oh, why are you vegan? Is it for the planet? Is it for environment? Is it for animal welfare?" And to say everything is so beautifully labeled. And we've got a lot of variety. And don't worry, it's not just processed and imported. We make homemade things. So we're really teaching them to have a really good heart-to-heart. And in fact, what they're doing in their kids' clubs now, in their kids' club, we are trying to repurpose bread that hasn't been used for breakfast, and we're making vegan bread pudding. So the children come, they get all their hands in there, squishing up the bread with all different types of flavors. We do chocolate chips, we do pecan nuts, we do apples and banana, lots of different types of little bread puddings. So that the hotel really is standing out. Other groups as well, the Beachcomber and Sun Life as well, two really big hotel chains. We're hoping to work with them for the year ahead. So by the end of this year, I would say Mauritius will definitely be ready for anyone and everyone who wants a vegan holiday.
Before we say goodbye, would you mind letting our listeners know how they can follow you and look at the work that you're doing? Because as a sort of a Mauritius vegan hospitality expert, it sounds like they need to keep in touch with you in order to know what all of the latest updates are in this area.
Yeah, with pleasure, Bridie. Anyone can contact me personally on my email address. It's heather@ecoshi.com. And we also have a website. It's www.ecoshi.com. It's ECOSHE. Eco as in green and she as in the mother, earth, nature. And I always say, don't forget there's a he and she, so the he hasn't been left out. And also on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn, it's ecoshi.earth. That are all the different ways to connect with us.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for all of the work that you are doing and for taking the time to be with us here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you to you and all that you do. I'm so jelly beans when I see all your holidays. I just want to sign up to every single one of them.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, good, Bridie. Thank you so much. And to all your listeners, come and visit us.
Thank you.
Bye.